economists thought they had discovered the perpetual motion machine, that this could just go on forever.
Well, good morning, gang. Go over to Discord, unmute Discord. Good morning, Discord.
Hey.
See, I told you guys I wouldn't forget to unmute you.
That's because I teased you about it.
Hey, hey. Short memory's better than a long pencil, but you're right. Lucy, post the non-expiring Discord invite in the group, if you would, please. And our topic today, welcome to Open Pagan Church, of course. Our topic today is how do you find your path? Well, we've kind of talked about this before, of course. I like to revisit it on occasion. How do you find your path? How do you look for that which is meant for you? Of course, as always, we do simulcast, or podcast, I think they call it, over on discordapps.com. Lucy, I think, is fixing to post a non-expiring invite into the chat. Look forward to hearing from people over there that want to be able to talk, and there it is.
It's so just sound like you said, and there it is.
Yeah, well.
Instead of ideas.
Yeah, well.
Wait, what?
Nah.
It's mess with Dawn Day.
I guess so, yeah. It's, yeah. So, yeah. Somebody started to say something?
Oh, no. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. So, for those who are wondering, I did have my upper and lower heart cath on Friday. They found a little bit of blockage, some things that should be able to be handled with medication. I've got more tests of what they're going to do. They know something's going on, typical to me, they just can't find it. Oh well, here you go.
At least they're starting to get it figured out, though.
It's good news, though.
Yeah. You know, it's we all knew I was slightly full of shit, but nice to know I'm not completely full of shit. So there you go.
Just slightly blocked.
Just slightly blocked. Woo-wee, yeah. So, how do you find your path? Well, I can tell you, mine smacked me upside the head. I knew when I was a kid I was different. I knew by communicating with horses and nature, being able to communicate with people without saying a whole lot, I knew I was different. course, until I was in my 30s, stroke 40s, I didn't know there was a name for it, really. I just thought I was different. I was okay being different. So, anybody who wants to tell the story, how did you find your path? Or even, those of you in the chat area and you feel like typing a bit, or those of you that have joined or are joining over in Discord, feel free to speak up. Well, there you go. How did you find your path?
I guess I can go, or Lucy, do you want to go?
No, you can go. I can go after. It's fine.
Okay. Mine, I mean, which time? I have, like you, I've known I was special between talking to animals, knowing what was wrong with them, seeing those who have passed since I was extremely young. But on top of that, I had a very rough childhood, to say it lightly. And there was always something that surrounded me. Like when I would go into my safe spot in my head, there was always something there. Like I visually saw something protecting me. So as I was getting older, I started researching faith because that didn't make sense to me. Why was I able to talk to animals? Why was I able to see the dead? Why was this thing protecting me? And so I started researching and I read the Bible. That didn't click. Looked into Taoism, looked into um, uh, all these other faiths, Hinduism, and that. None of it made sense. None of it connected. And I was sitting in a field outside my house, and it was a horrible day. And literally something came to me, and they said, "Look at Wicca." So I did that, and Wicca kind of clicked, but I was struggling really hard with it. And I kept struggling. I kept struggling until probably, I think it's been 5 years ago now. And I looked at paganism and I studied both, but I was so terrified because my family was so devoutly Baptist that the darker side was already chastised and my family already hated me. So I didn't want to give them any more ammunition to make my life more of a living hell. So I kept saying and I kept pretending that I was Wicca. I kept pretending that, it was only good, harm none, all that. And then I met another witch who is like, you need to try this. I needed a ritual. I needed a breaking bonds ritual or spell and to perform on my biological parent. And when I started talking to her, my husband's like, I've been having these dreams, and there is this woman, and starts describing this woman. And so I got ready for this ritual, and I closed circle, and I started it, and wolves started howling, and there were no wolves anywhere around. And all of a sudden, Hecate is there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And then I have faces coming out of the flames. And at that moment, I knew my path was left-handed. I knew what I had been fighting my whole life. And it has been the most peace. And I still work with other deities, but that's how I stumbled upon both my transitions in paganism and my.
Well, let me ask you a question, Tasha. I know you were talking about your Wicca and what have you. I find it very interesting just how little society actually knows that all Wiccans are pagan, but not all pagans are Wiccans. So Wiccans are pagan at the core. That's their earth-based belief, right?
Yeah.
But they think that Wicca is all of this fluffy bunny, happy-go-lucky, harm none, do as you will stuff. Let me tell you, they need to look into the Gardnerian and the Alexandrian Wiccan paths a little bit, and I think it'll scare the hell out of them.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I say that I have this saying when people ask me what the difference between Wicca and paganism is, and I was like, honestly and truthfully, nothing. I said, but society-wise, what it has become is Wiccas are to the point that they think they're these martyrs. And then paganism are warriors. You know, when you balance that light and that dark, and when you look at things as not fluffy unicorn butts, you know, you really are. You're a warrior within yourself. You're a warrior within the earth and that peace. And anymore, society speaking, Wicca is literally just, oh, here, take me. You know, I mean, I'm not going to fight back. And it pisses me off, frankly.
Sorry, I'm kind of flipping back and forth between monitors here, seeing what's going to work best. Okay, so who else? Who else we got over here? Lucy, I know you went through a bit of a trials and tribulations in finding your path. What is your story?
Yeah. So I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. It never felt real. A lot of it, like, it didn't really make sense to me. And I was a member of a journal type community called Life Journal. And I had a friend on there that kept talking about orbs and seeing spirits and like all of these things. And I found it very interesting. And okay, backtracking a little bit before that, I started seeing like things in my mind, like flashes of the past, and I would see flashes of like the future. And then I ran into that person on Live Journal, and she told me, well, look up Wicca, look up druids, look up paganism. And so I started looking these things up, and I joined multiple groups, like different paths and everything. This is back when there was still like Yahoo groups. And Don found me on a druid site, and we started talking, and he invited me out to a wedding, and I went with a friend of mine, and it just felt right. Like I had never, it really just, it just felt right. And the more I came out to circle and everything, you know, I would ask my questions. And then I met Dawn, and I met Cindy and some other people that were there as well. And at the time there was fae, there was shaman, witches, druids, there was like all sorts of paths all together for circle. And the one I was most drawn to was the shamanism. And the more I learned about it, it just felt right to me. And I don't know, it just made sense.
Yeah, right there it is. I know that when you're looking for your path, and I've come across before situations where people have come to me and they're like, do I even need a path? Why is everybody so hung up on having a path? You know, you get, and I hesitate to say you get the non-conformance, because I definitely see myself as a non-conformant, if you will. But you get the combative non-conformance, right? And these people are more interested in how much they can, lack of a better analogy, piss people off, right? So my thought is, why? I mean, yeah, okay, when you're first breaking into the pagan philosophy, you don't really need a path unless you already know, hey, I'm going to be a witch, or Wicca really turns me on, or the Fey philosophy, shaman, druid, whatever, Asatru, whatever. But unless you already have a philosophy in mind that you've been studying, and you happen to, and a lot of people will go about it, I hesitate to say ass backwards, but they'll find something that really trips their trigger and really turns them on, and they'll go for it. Now, I've always been of the mind to study the foundation, and being someone who built houses, who remodeled houses, a house is not worth anything without the foundation. So you can build the most beautiful house in the world, of a path, if you will, but if it doesn't have a good foundation, a knowledgeable, educated foundation to stand on, then the whole thing just kind of goes crumbling in on itself. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah. So with that being said, I pose a question. Do you think, because paganism is so broad and there's so many different paths and there's so many different walks of paganism, that getting to that foundation is really difficult to new people coming in? And that's why a lot of times they don't want to choose a path, or they almost become ignorant in paganism, because it's really hard to decipher truth and fact and fiction and Hollywood and, and that.
But are we not still segregating paganism from witchcraft, druid, shaman, fae, whatever, Wicca? Because much like you take Judaism, Christianity, of course Buddhism's not a religion, it's a discipline. But if you take the word pagan, the definition of the word pagan, depending on where you look, is anything that is not Christian. Now that's by society's philosophy. But the understanding of pagan is that it is any polytheistic belief system. Now there's thousands of them. There's hundreds of thousands of polytheistic belief systems that kind of follow under the pagan umbrella, if you will. Right? So in answer to your question, I see paganism kind of as elementary, grade school, middle school, high school, if you will. You're learning the history of what pagans used to be, what pagans have become, the things that were done in the Roman days and in the Egyptian days and even further back, in the name of whatever god they followed, whatever gods or structure of gods that they may have followed. So in answer to your question, I think we should all approach new things with a form of ignorance. It humbles us, it makes us want to learn, and it makes us want to open our mind and go, that's an interesting philosophy. It's not for me, but it's an interesting philosophy. What do you think?
No, I'm listening.
I completely agree. Completely, because as I said, I looked on other faiths or studied for that before drawing or making my conclusion. But it's sad for me to say a lot of people don't want to do that work. They don't want to look at. I find it fascinating. And I'm sure you do, and probably Lucy and Clint, and to find out that foundation, like you were saying. But it saddens me that I don't think a lot of people want to do that. I think they're for the here and now, and that's being taught.
Well, it makes sense. That makes sense. And a lot of times people get a overwhelming impression when they go to, and I know when they used to come out to the HOP on property when we had Circle, you get steadfast druids, or you get steadfast witches, Wicca, Fae, whatever, and these people have studied. Some of them I've seen were actually raised in one particular path or the other. And let's take witchcraft for example. If you are a child and you're raised in a witch coven, the only thing you know is the witch coven, the witch way of doing things. Well, then it's much like a Southern Baptist that comes to Circle for the first time, when the only thing they know, the only thing they've ever studied, and the only thing they've ever heard was Southern Baptist. Now, the Southern Baptist knows they're Christian. The witch knows she's pagan. They are pagan, I hope. But until they've encountered an open pagan situation where you have removed the segregation, you've removed the separation, and you have members of all paths breaking bread together as a feast, then they begin to learn a little bit that it's okay to be different. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is one of the beauties of paganism. So let's take it just slightly further as far as, finding your path and stuff like that. We were discussing Wicca earlier, or Wicca. What are your thoughts on it's become, I don't know if it's so much of a trend, or if they're really trying to separate themselves from paganism. But I've seen a lot lately where it's like, no, I'm not pagan, I'm Wicca. It kind of all goes along with what you were just saying, where, if you're just raised Baptist, that's all you know. If you're just raised a witch, that's all you know. In my home, we don't do that to our children. If they want to come up to us and say, hey, we want to see a monk or a monastery, can you take me? We find a monastery, or a temple, or when they're at the appropriate age. We make sure that they have a broad spectrum. But how is it, or what are your thoughts when within paganism you have certain ones that are trying to branch off and say, no, we are not pagan, we are Wicca?
I think I can answer that with two words. It's easy. I mean, if we think about it, all right, it's easy. It's simple. It's easier, right, to just say, well, there's nothing wrong with me because I'm Wicca. There's nothing wrong. Oh, I'm not pagan. No. I'm not pagan. I'm Wicca. Most of the people who are saying this, and boy, I'm probably going to get hung out on a rail for saying this, but most of the people who use that terminology don't understand the spouted facts that they're trying to say. Because,
And I think
go ahead.
that goes back to that not be willing to learn the fundamentals, that base of any home that you build. I think that's what goes back to that, and it's a tragedy.
Yeah, because that statement does not make sense. How can you be Wicca and not pagan? Yeah.
Well, Lucy, it goes back to those who have coined the philosophical phrase of Christian pagan. Now, I'm not going to joke about anybody's uh, philosophy. I'm not going to joke about anybody's chosen, quote, religious ideology. But being someone who is hinged on, when I speak very carefully. It's the way I was raised. If you're going to use words, know what they mean. And to use the combination phrase of I am pagan Christian, it tweaks all over my OCDs because the two are complete, total, polar opposites of each other. So my school of thought is, and of course I can't answer for everyone else, but my school of thought is, if you're going to learn what you are, the simplicity of paganism. Now, I'm not breaking off into Celtic pagan, I'm not breaking off into Nordic pagan. I'm not trying to split the pagan apple. Okay, a pagan is a pagan is a pagan is a pagan. Pagan, pagan, pagan. Damn, I could write a song on that. The terminology pagan just simply says, I believe in the possibility of multiple gods and goddesses. Ding, that's paganism. Full stop, right there. That's it. That's pagan. I believe in the possibility of multiple gods and goddesses. Which is why I've always been so careful with open pagan church, and I personally will not get into a discussion about other paths because I don't pretend to be fully educated on other paths or denominations of paganism, if you will. Does that make any sense?
Perfect.
And you know, it's something I've always taught my students and the ministers that House of Pagans and Open Pagan Church have always trained, is you have to realize that when you approach something as a pagan minister, you have to full well keep your path out of it. You have to full well keep what you might believe as a witch, a druid, a shaman, or whatever, out of it. Because when you are listening to someone's spiritual philosophy, if you offered your help, if you offered to listen, then you have no right to judge. And that's my own personal philosophy. What do you think?
Yeah.
First, yeah, mostly go.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is, like, if you're offering advice or help, you're to help them guide towards the decision. You cannot influence them. You cannot tell them this is what you need to do. They need to figure out what they feel is right, but with guidance. Like asking questions, um, just asking questions and just help them figure out what they're needing to do.
That, and I think if you attack somebody, you're going to give them a bad impression.
Well, true enough. Dave, you had something you wanted to say, sir?
Yeah, I just kind of got everything, the sound going. I just kind of heard a little, but I agree with what you said, just about believing it, the God and goddesses, because I mean, how can you if you don't work, either predestined, predestined, and they have worked with you at birth, or it's just something that you're interested. Wicca is some kind of new religion. It's just, I've been this way since birth. I didn't ask for it. I've dealt with the spirit world in a physical way intensely all my life. I'm glad I'm still, I think if people have to make a conscious decision one day and go, they don't really know they're pagan inside, but it's something that's interesting to them, whatever, then they don't need to go that way. That's my take on it. But nobody has the right way. You know what I mean? It's all individual. But no kind of religion gonna ever, help. I mean, it's not gonna make you spiritual, and it's not gonna make you that way, or not gonna. One day I wake up and go, oh, well, yeah. Oh, I think that's interesting. I'm going to be a shaman. Well, if you're already not that, that's how.
But
I'm done my spiel, but a lot of people in the pagan world go, "Oh, my way's the way. I'm better than you." Blah blah blah. And just like politics, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're pagan and you're not a leftist. Pagan has been around for thousands of years for modern politics. So really, the gods don't give a crap about our feelings. So that's just the way that goes.
Well,
anyway, I'm sorry.
No. You're fine. You're fine. I'd like to respond to a couple of your statements, and I kind of tend to agree with you, but I know that, speaking for myself, I did kind of wake up one day to an awakening. It wasn't a decision. It was an awakening. It was, wait, I'm not happy where I'm at. I've never really been happy where I'm at. So maybe it's time I figure out what the hell I am, spiritually speaking. Now, agreed, you're either a spiritual person or you're not. Or perhaps one has never been taught how to be spiritual. And it goes back to the environment in which you're raised. And I'm going to throw this out there, if you're raised in a house full of assholes, and the only thing you've ever understood is to be an asshole, and the only thing you've ever really understood is how to put people down because they're different, then, well, hang on.
The events, but I couldn't.
Right, but don't you have to make the decision to make the change? I know I did. I mean, granted, I wasn't raised in a house full of assholes, but
So
I was.
yeah, my husband, he was raised in a really bad environment, and when we met, I taught him that there is love, that there is a different way of life, and he's changed so much, and I'm so proud of him for that. I mean, we both changed, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to change.
there's the key.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
exactly. Right there, because my husband was raised, I think, pretty indicative or pretty similar to how your husband was raised. And he has chosen to level up per se. He's chosen to not be what he was raised to be. And for me, my family, it was all about keeping family secrets, and our family secrets were her trophy. And I chose to break that. I was the first one to stop the abuse. And for that, I was literally kicked out of my family. I am the epitome of a black sheep because I broke the silence. And you have to choose that. You have to rise above that. And I totally think that even I was 8 years old when I did it, when I said no more. That was my paganism. That was that path that I didn't even understand yet. That was guiding me there and letting me know that the path is going to suck. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, but you're going to be okay. And then your children aren't going to do that.
And see, that's exactly the way we run our home, right? That's exactly the way we run our environment here with our daughter, and luckily my parents kick in as well with their thoughts and processes. You're going to be who you are. You're going to believe what you believe. We're going to believe what we believe. But we sent our daughter to some of the local area Christian churches as she got older, running around with some of her friends and her little girlfriends and her best friend, BFFs, so to speak, I guess you will. She went, and she came home, and she sat down perplexed, sometimes confused. Confusion is good. And she would say, but they talk about hell and this and that and this and that, and if you don't believe this, you're going to go to hell. One of her questions when she was, I think, 10 or 9, somewhere up in there, what is hell? Well, we explained it. Hell is a Christian thing. Hell, the devil, is a Christian-made deity to scare the hell out of their patrons, to make them follow what the church tells them to do. She said, but why? So we broke into the why. So when you break the mold, right, like Tasha said, when you step out, when you step out of the mold and you step away from the environmental programming of whichever you may have been introduced to in a younger year, there comes a point where Dave said hell is living with my ex in Australia. Yeah, I think we've all got those. But when you're looking for that path and you're trying to find your way, I have a philosophy that, and I want to throw this out there and see what you guys think. My philosophy is paganism is a religion. It is a political, foundational base in which we as pagans form our belief system on. Now, a path is a denomination of paganism that we either never find or eventually find or may already know. But I have always told people, don't rush to find your path. How do I find my path? Well, it of course starts with opening this tin can called a head that society has spent thousands of years welding shut. But it comes to a point where you just got to say, okay, look, what you're telling me doesn't make any sense. Okay. Then start pulling books off the bookshelf. Start researching on the internet. Start trying to stop trying to be what everybody else tells you to be, and start trying to be who you are. Does that make any sense?
I think that's the beauty of paganism as a whole, is because, like, I've had more than one path, and I think you're exactly right. And what may be your path today could possibly not be your path in 10 years. And I think that's a core difference from paganism than other religions per se.
And therein lies the fun, if you will, of the pagan philosophy. Be who you are. I doubt very seriously I will wake up tomorrow and be anything but a shaman. Shaman is what I've always been, even before I knew what the hell it was. I see shamanism as a lifestyle. I see witchcraft as a lifestyle. I see excuse me. I see each one of our denominations as a lifestyle. It becomes a part of you just as much as, you know, your family in different variables, right? So when you're thinking about,
I was just going to say, absolutely. I will always be a witch. I will always be the person that people come to for home remedies or help with their animals, or, you know, people come to speak to their loved ones who have passed if they're there. I'm a little odd bird. You know, I don't do what a lot of other people do, but I'm who I am, and this is me. But it took me a long time to get here.
doesn't it first begin with acceptance of self?
Yep, but that's a hard one. That's a hard one. You know, do you ever truly accept self?
Anyone else want to reply to that one? Doesn't it begin with acceptance of self to be able to acknowledge who you are? Don't
I
everybody talk
know.
at once.
I was thinking of how to respond to that. I'm sorry. Um, Dawn, it you remember how when I first started, I ran away a lot. Um, I struggled letting go of the, how can I put it? The mind restrictions or whatever of how I was raised as Jehovah's Witness. Um, the brainwashing, the just letting go of a lot of it. It's like I was being told, "Hey, it's okay for you to feel the way you are." And it was it took a long time for me to learn to accept. I mean, it felt right, but deep inside, I still had those deep roots of how I was raised, and it was really hard to let go of. And yeah, it does start with that. It's just sometimes it's hard to.
Therein, I think, comes the whole point of the conversation. How do you find your path? And it kind of comes down to it, you know, like I wrote in the introduction. How do you know the right questions to ask? What are some of the trials you're going to go through? You know, what are some of the trials everyone went through? What some people can't handle being shunned by society, so to speak. So
In your family.
yeah, absolutely. You know, when people, and not just today, it's a hell of a lot easier today for younger generational people to get out and try new things thanks to the internet, because they can research things on the internet at a whim. If a thought hits them, they can Google it or Yahoo it or whatever the hell search engine they may use. But when a thought hits you, you can search it. And this is one of the best ways that I learned early on in the 90s when the internet, if you will, was first becoming a thing. This was pre-Google, when I had Yahoo, and all I had was Yahoo Chat. I had IMCQ, all right? And so I started breaking into, once I found the word pagan, and I actually looked up what the core of pagan is, because I tend to like to go to the core of what something means. Once I understood the core, then I could say, okay, well, that is my core. That is my religion. That is, I can embrace that, right? And I felt this complete, total release of anxieties, anger, fear, and everything else. And the headliner, right? You know, you always get a giggle at the headliner. The headliner that drew my attention was, pagans are not devil worshippers. Pagans don't even believe in the devil. So thereby, pagans can't be devil worshippers. And I thought, ooh, ding, there went the antenna. And I pulled it up and started looking. And of course, it takes me 9 forevers to read a page where others can just blow through it because of my poor reading comprehension. But it took me 3 weeks to read this, 15 or 20 paragraph page, and meditate on it. And I thought, well, this makes sense. I get this. Okay, there's my foundation. All right, where does everything else lead me? They talk about paths. All right, I get it. Pagans are nature-based, so when we're in nature and we're in the woods, we walk the path, right? Some of us like to veer off of the path and go through the stickers and the briars and through the trees and over the hills to grandmother's house we go, if you will. Some of us, we want to take a left-handed path, as it's called today. Some of us, we want to take a right-handed path, as it's called today. Some of us want to go the straight and narrow. I don't care. I go my path. Now, the path of shamanism is a little left, it's a little right, it's a little center, it's a little high, and it's a little low. There you go. But when you start talking about the different philosophies, and the more we learn, now this is the one that very few people ever listen to. And this is the thing that very few people ever pay any attention to. And that is, the more we know, the more we learn, the less we actually don't know. The more we study, the more we learn about religion, the more we learn about spiritual ideologies of the world, not just my own cubicle, my own city, state, government, or my own quadrant of the world. The more we learn that we're only a speck of sand on an absolutely humongous beach. Dave says he's on the path that the gods have had him on. Surviving was mind-blowing. Yep, I understand that. But when you spend so much time looking for your path that you lose track of yourself and you lose track of what you're doing there, do you not find yourself in a whirlwind of confusion? And we're getting close to the end of the hour, so I'd kind of like to bring to a close, if you will. Looking for your path is a good thing. Don't ever stop looking if you don't have one. Those of you that are coming to the pagan community for the first time and watching our broadcast at a later date. But if you're looking for something that fits you, learn the core of whatever it is you're studying at the time. Don't take what I say as gospel, if you will, pardon the pun. Don't take what somebody else tells you as gospel. Look, learn, research, ask questions, go where your spirit guides direct you to go. And like I've always said, pagans like our voices in our head. They keep us company. The only thing I do say, and the only thing I do recommend is, if the voices in your head try to tell you to hurt yourself or hurt others, well, maybe you need professional help. But if the voices in your head tell you to pop into this bookshop, go over to this website, check out this webpage, take a look at this. If the voices in your head say, check out Open Pagan Church, they may have something. Well, they just might. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching Open Pagan Church, and we do hope to see you next week right here on Open Pagan Church. And Facebook is muted.